So what you guys are watching right now is on PvP, me and my boy Antho. We did real-time PvP. Now, he has his Black Asta, I have my Black Asta. And just to give you guys a bit more of an in-depth look at things on why, I guess you could say, people are not exactly happy, you know, kind of expected a little bit more, etc, whatnot, with how they've done their Black Asta. With my Black Asta, he is completely maxed out, right, where LR plus 5, same with Antho. The difference is, also I should also clarify that with his gear set to my gear set, he's got 20,000 defense, and at the time when I was fighting him, I had 18,000 defense. Obviously now it's gone a little bit higher now I've put more time into it, but technically speaking, stat wise, his Asta is better, right? As a tank, as a high, having take 2k more defense than me, that's just kind of how that is. The difference between us is that he has a Greymoor, which it's the it's the darkness one, which you get when you start every account. You guys know what I'm talking about. However, his is maxed out, which means he's given his Asta a 20% increase in attack, whereas I have Asta's Greymoor. So my skill 2 is giving my whole team total defense, which is amazing again for a tank. That's exactly what you want. And on top of that, my my anti-magic damage is getting buffed up now because it's maxed out with my skill page. I'm actually getting a additional 25% damage from my anti-magic for every 1500 defense that I have. So doing the maths right now with my Asta that you guys are seeing, he has a 300% buff. Now obviously it's the PvP side of things, and the one thing which I will say from a PvP perspective, especially with it being AI of course, is that Asta, he does well being a tank. I will say, you know, it's been very little times, or very few times have I ever gone into the anti-magic stage and then using the Asta, because again you need the enemies to kind of focus fire on Asta, and realistically that only picks up after he hits after he's actually below the 40% because of the passive, of course, which is kind of weird and how that works. I don't understand it, but it is what it is, I guess. And the reason why I mention all of this with how he's got his Black Asta or how I have my Black Asta, as of right now with Black Clover, for the most part, or with all parts should I say, just going for the character himself was obviously more than enough, and then you can kind of go into subbing in and subbing out different type of Greymoors, where so that you're not heavily reliant on their Greymoor themselves, because of course on top of that, that will then require a ton of luck, a ton of summoning of course, and it can get a bit overwhelming, especially if you're trying to be free to play about it and whatnot of course. So it kind of makes things easier, just kind of focus firing on certain things like characters in this case, and of course if you dupe them out more, usually that's kind of like more than enough, right? Just kind of duping up the characters and then kind of filling in the spot with the Greymoors. But the Greymoor for Asta, Black Asta, they've kind of made it heavily, well, the advantage play is absolutely ridiculous, to the point where you really only get half of the Asta realistically. So of course, as you guys are watching the PvP side of things, my Asta is playing a better tank than his Asta. I mean, of course, it's more on the damage side of things with the Greymoor that Antho has provided. But even with the damage that Asta does in his anti-magic form, it is disgustingly trash with a capital T. It is so bad. The damage that he deals is basically as a normal tank would do it without the anti-magic. As just a regular tank. That is what you are getting with the Asta. Keep in mind, the Black Asta, the sell point isn't him being a tank. The sell point is the anti-magic. In order to actually get the anti-magic and actually experience it and to use it in the best way possible, is that you need the skill book. And I mean, unfortunately, you're gonna need to dupe it out to get the max percentage. So when it comes, and the other thing is that, okay, as a tank, Black Asta, I mean, I'll give it to him, not a bad tank, but as a celebration character, he's like every other tank. If anything, I'll still rock with Radis. If anything, I'll still stick with Mars. At the end of the day, you know, when it comes to tanks that I can rely on and still are good, right? So there's nothing new that he's bringing to the table for you to just be like, right, I'm gonna go for the Asta and I'll use him as a tank. There really is no point at that point, if I'm being completely honest. The sell point is the anti-magic, but the anti-magic, there's a lot of hurdles in order to get to it. right? In order to get the final product of what the anti-magic is. So it's kind of sneaky, and I'm not a big fan of how they've done things. But again, you guys will see in a PvP perspective. Unfortunately, Antho wasn't able to get me down to the 40% mark, and even when he did, you know, Julius would come on in and clean house. Like again, coming back to them dropping Julius, it's like, just go for him. He would honestly do a much better job with just helping you out in a much better way with on PvP and PvE and whatnot. And all you need to do is get him to LR+2 at the very latest, or at the very least, sorry, not latest, to then get him so that he's got his resurrection, right? I mean, even if you don't have his Greymore, it's not the end of the world, right? You can still kick ass, whoop ass and whatnot, do what you gotta do. It's just an additional bonus. Whereas Black Asta, as I mentioned in the previous video, there's just so much to him. Black Asta is like a Lego, right? There's so many pieces in order to build him, and then certain pieces are like behind like a glass window of some sort, right? You know. Now, obviously, there is one loophole to all of this, and that is investing with the shards. Obviously, on global, you don't have the SSR skill mage shards yet, soon to come. But you do have the SSR shards for the mages, which is fine. But in the case of Black Asta, you need more for the, well, you kind of need to prioritize more for the skill page in this case, which is weird, very weird. But yeah, they've just made it so that Black Asta is kind of heavily reliant on the full package, rather than you just getting 1 or 2 copies, maybe 3 or whatnot, and just kind of having fun with him. That is the big unfortunate thing about it, and it really does show. I'm not just saying it. I mean, like I said, me and Antho, we done so many testing. I mean, you guys have seen some PvP, Black Asta versus Black Asta. He'll even tell you that, yeah, the Black Asta, you need the full package to get his full worth. Honestly, it's not even worth going for that man if you're not gonna dupe him out or be able to obtain the skill page. And with how they're doing the skill page being that 20k, which I'm sure you guys all know of, that's a bit of a scam, so I'm not a fan of that. It's not the best approach, as it is a celebration character being half anniversary, and as it is the introduction of Black Asta, of course, with the transformation. Not the best approach. I don't think he should have been a hybrid character. I really don't think he should have been an absolute tank. I don't know why they made him a tank, but it is what it is, I guess. But that should not have been the case. Those that can't max him out, like 200%, being max out the character and max out the skill page, I don't think the enjoyment will be there for this character. And even if, I'm not gonna lie, even with me maxing him out, I'm not gonna lie, I'll be completely honest, he ain't all that. Because the fun part to the character is the anti-magic, and I have to wait until he drops to 40%. And when he does get to 40%, I have to pray to God he doesn't die. And if I do heal him and he goes above 40%, I lose the anti-magic. It's just the conditions, man. It's stressful. I don't know. They could have done this character a lot more better. But that's one thing which I really want to kind of get my point across when it comes to that. His skill page is actually heavily required. And if you don't have it, and if you aren't putting dupes into it, then I'm sorry, you're not going to get the Black Asta that has been shown and advertised to be an absolute monster.